Welcome back. You're watching Focus on Africa. Now, today marks the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz towards the end of the Second World War. Auschwitz-Birkenau, to give it its full name, was the largest concentration camp in Poland, controlled by Germany's National Socialists, or Nazis, during the conflict. At that time, in a period that has become known as the Holocaust, the Nazis killed over 6 million Jewish people because of their identity, with the Nazis deeming Jews to be subhuman. Yet it was not only Jews targeted by the regime led by Nazi leader Adolf Hitler. Black people, including people of African descent, are often forgotten when it comes to discussing victims of the Holocaust. Now, to gain more insight on how some Africans in Europe were affected by the war, I spoke to an expert on the subject, Professor Robbie Aitken.
In 1933, there may be 2,000 to 2,500 people of African heritage in Germany. So we're thinking about people who might come from the former German colonies, Cameroon, Togo, a few from Tanzania. They have children, and in some cases grandchildren. But there are also black people from the likes of Liberia, from Ethiopia. There's some African Americans. There are also some people from the Caribbean. In addition, there's another group that's called the Rhineland children. These are children who are born in the 1920s, when France occupies part of Germany and they use French colonial troops. Some of these troops have relationships with German women, and children are born out of them. So we have roughly 500 to 700 so-called Rhineland children as well. It's a diverse community, not large in number, but very visible, and Nazi officials certainly know of this black population.
Do we know what activities this black population was involved in, and when the Nazi took over, how were they affected and targeted?
Yeah, I think we can say by 1933, most black residents are probably performers. They're excluded from other routes of employment. But we're talking about the 1920s, when the film business is taking off, when African-American stars are touring Germany. And so this opens up opportunities for the resident population. When the Nazis come to power, however, they do not really want these people to have a public space. So increasingly, black performers will be prohibited from performing on stage. Their children will also be eventually prohibited from going to school, and really robbing them of the opportunity for an education.
Many of these black people, or people of African origin, were victims of sterilization. I mean, explain to us what that means and what happened.
One of the things that the Nazis will do is target the Rhineland children in 1935. These children are becoming teenagers. They are wanting boyfriends, girlfriends, and the Nazis really fear race mixing. They do not want children of both African and German heritage to be born. So in 1937, they will illegally and systematically sterilize 400 of the Rhineland children. In addition, they will use the Nuremberg race laws to attack other black residents, prevent them from having marriages with white Germans, and also use sterilization as a real threat and tactic to end relationships so that no future generations of black Europeans, black Germans, can be born. There's a real genocidal intent, I would say, in the Nazis' policies.
So some of them eventually ended up in concentration camps. What was their fate? What have you discovered?
Yeah, I mean, the camp system is large. So we're thinking partly about concentration camps such as Sachsenhausen, Ravensbrück, Buchenwald, but we could also mean prisons and also mental health institutions, sanatoriums. The experiences of people in this wide range of camp system are very diverse. Some people will be murdered, some people will be euthanized, other people will also survive. So the majority of black people living in Germany in 1939 are still alive in 1945, but this doesn't really tell the whole experience. I would say primarily it's sterilization that's used to attack and persecute black people.
Is there anything happening now in modern Germany that would bring remembrance to some of these historical accounts that you've told us?
There is a greater interest being shown partly in the media, but I do think there's a long way to go before black people are recognized as victims, and the importance of their stories as part of German history, as part of African history, is recognized.